Hi you guys, and welcome to the very first Tuition Centre podcast. So in this series we're going to look through the history of the Tuition Centre, we're going to talk through our various experts and teachers, and we're going to touch on all the subjects for the Leaving Cert. And we'll try offer you the best advice that we can to help you in your 2024 Leaving Cert examinations. Today we're here with our maths expert and our founder of the Tuition Centre, Eoghan O'Leary. So Eoghan, you can introduce yourself.
David, thanks very much. You're very welcome down here to West Cork, where it all began. So it seems like such a long time ago now, back in 2020, but at the time I'd been teaching for 15 years in a school up the road there called Hamilton High School, so I've been teaching maths and economics up there. And like every kind of middle-sized town in Ireland, there was a tuition centre. So Bandon Tuition Centre had been here since 2007, and we had established another place in the city called Wilton Tuition Centre, and collectively they kind of had been known as the Tuition Centre, but that was only internal, so that was only for ourselves, right? But we had an idea that we would have, a number of tuition centres spread throughout Cork, and in kind of a central kind of place for revision courses up in UCC. But what happened, of course, on March 12th, 2020, that even though that does seem like a long time ago, I can remember it so clearly. Leo came out that morning and said the schools were to close. They were to close at 6 o'clock that evening.
From 6 p.m. today, the following measures are being put in place, and they will stay in place until the 29th of March. Schools, colleges and childcare facilities will close from tomorrow. Where possible, teaching will be done online or remotely.
Which was amazing. So many things happened in that short period of time. They were amazing, just never seemed like they could happen. But they were to close for 2 weeks, that's what we were told. So I had Leaving Certs up in Hamilton High School, and I had my grind students. So I remember saying to the guys up in Hammies, as we call it, I remember saying, look lads, I'm not sure actually when I'm going to see you again. And they were saying, but it's only 2 weeks, And I said, I don't know, because I suppose in maths we know all about exponential growth, and that's how COVID was being described, as going to grow exponentially. So I said, look, this could be longer than they're saying. So I said, look, we'll go online and we'll figure it out, right? What I was 100% certain of was the Leaving Cert would go ahead, So I said that to him. I said, look, we'll definitely 100% see it before the exams anyhow. So this was March. So that evening I went up to Wilton because the schools had to close at 6, and we had our last lesson there 4:30 to 5:30. So up we went. All the students in front of you, everyone was saying, sure, we'll see you 2 weeks time, we'll be back. And I was like, look, I'm not certain. I don't know will it be like that. But I said, look, we will definitely figure something out. So that night, so that was the 12th, that night I went home and I talked to some of the team who were with us in Bandon Tuition Centre, and I had this great technical guy called Conrad, and he said, look, I can have you online by tomorrow.
Jesus.
Yeah. So March 13th, the Friday, we were online for our first lesson that day, and the whole thing went crazy immediately. So what we did at that time was we ran a whole load of free lessons, and that was the kind of spirit at the time anyway, because it was so unknown. And again, people thought this was going to be a matter of weeks. So we did a load of free stuff, and in those first weeks, we had basically a load of people from Cork, and then it spread out rapidly throughout the country. And then it became clear that it was going to go on for longer. So the big problem for Leaving Cert students at that time was they had just done the pre-exams and got the results back. And the pre-exams were really hard that year in maths. So you had students who were hoping for H1s who might have got 40%.
Yeah, the panic was setting in.
The panic was setting in, unbelievable, because now they've no teachers, they've no school. And they're looking at this 40%. And the idea of predicted grades started to float around. And they're thinking, is my grade going to get based on that 40% pre-exam?
Yeah.
So anyway, we had always done extra pre's down here. So I said, we put an extra pre, we make it free to everyone in the country, and we'd show them how to correct it themselves. So at least they'd have an idea of where they really were. And then I suppose we advertised that online, said, look, we're going to do this, and 4,000 students signed up within the space of a couple of weeks. Right? And with this great guy, some of the people you meet, you're so kind of lucky. This genius in Dublin called Hos Punzit, who's he's a teacher, but really like he's a software developer, and like, he's just a brilliant guy. But he put together PowerPoints for the pre, and we use that to show students how to correct their own exam and to get their own mark. So now the student who got 40% in their own pre might have got 70% in this. Now they're settling down a bit and they realise, okay, I'm not too far away from 80 or 90 for target. And then I suppose now we're into April and we're looking, now we're starting to think this is really taking off, This is really taking off. And there was the team at the time came together really quickly, because we were lucky here. Like, I had a team down here in Bandon. Deborah was in the office. Conrad was our technical guy. So within a couple of weeks, you're teaching people in the whole country, and you have thousands of customers, Yeah. And then what happened? Like, all these things just kind of fell into place. There was at the time, it's hard to remember back, but. There was a few of my own past pupils. They were in college. They were doing BIS. They had placements, but it all fell through. All those placements fell through for these guys because they couldn't go to Dublin, and they couldn't go. They couldn't get accommodation. None of those things were working. So we contacted UCC and said, "Look, we can give these guys placement." Yeah. And normally that would never work for a startup company. They would never trust you. But in this case, we had a few people
desperate times.
Exactly. Exactly. And they said okay. Yeah. So we had Brian and Peter. They were kind of helping them with the technical side. So they were working with Conrad. And another past pupil of the tuition centre, Niamh, she was on social media. Again, she was a college student, but just pure natural at it. Yeah. She figured out all this stuff about studygrams, people in sixth year themselves posting up what they're doing. And again, pre-COVID, people wouldn't have really done it or felt comfortable doing it, or it wouldn't have taken off. But all of a sudden, she could.
Students were probably looking for anything they could get online.
100%.
Absolutely,
they were, and it's just, Niamh was able to kind of talk to these people, and they spread the word about it. And I'm going to say, things were going unbelievable, right? And the government said that, the department said the exams are going to be on in July, Leaving Cert. And I would say we got so many things right at that time, from a delivery of the product and the service to the students. They really were happy, really grateful for all that we were doing. Yeah, it was really working. And then from a business point of view, you could see how. We were ahead of all the big...
The potential was there. It tapped into a niche kind of market there online.
Yeah, exactly. Just at that moment, and the bigger organisations couldn't pivot quick enough. The smaller organisations didn't have the team. So we were there right at that moment. But the one thing that I got completely wrong, I just never thought they'd cancel the Leaving Cert. Yeah. Because it's such a sacred cow in Ireland. It was. And I tell you, it was so funny, really, but I didn't think they'd cancel it. I thought they'd do something else, And in hindsight, they probably could have done something else, the way it panned out. But we were online, so we used to do Tuesdays and Thursdays at this stage. So now we're kind of heading into April and May at this stage. We're online, and it's coming up to, I think at that time it's probably 10 to 6 now, right? And I'm online, maybe 50 students online with me or something. And one guy types into the chat, he goes, "I think they've just cancelled the Leaving Cert."
A heart-dropping moment, I'd say, for you.
Yeah, we were there, and everyone's like, "What? Cancel the Leaving Cert?" I was like, "Okay." There was 10 minutes to go on the grind. I said, "What'll we do?" So I put this in the chat, and they said, "Sure, keep going, keep going, right?" So I said, "Right, we'll finish this question. We'll find out in 6 o'clock news." And that kind of sums up I think how much disbelief there was. Because we did the question, they all stayed.
They're still sceptical after hearing the news and everything.
Absolutely, they stayed on the grind. And say that was the Thursday, I think, right? And they said, "So will we have a lesson on Tuesday?" And I said, "Look, we'll wait to see what happens." But I said, "I'll be here on Tuesday, and we can discuss it then if you want, and we'll know by then."
Yeah.
After weeks of speculation, it was confirmed today that the Leaving Cert as we know it has been cancelled.
I have come to this conclusion with a heavy heart.
Students will now opt to either receive calculated grades or sit an exam at a later date when it's safe to do so.
So now we have it's announced, it's all over, right? There's predicted grades. There's no need for grinds. Still, people showed up on the Tuesday. They showed up on the Tuesday because they couldn't believe it was actually over, you know?
Yeah.
And I suppose we were in such a habit and such a routine. Yeah. They showed up. So we kind of we just talked for a while. We did a little bit, and we said, look, it is all over because it is predicted grades. Yeah. We knew from a school point of view now it was
official, it was in place now.
Yeah. So it wasn't, they were kind of worried that, you know, how were the predictions going to take place, you know, and like could what they were doing now influence it? But I knew it couldn't, so it was over. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was that. And you see, we had at that stage probably 5,000-6,000 students kind of using us through one way or the other.
Yeah.
And they were gone.
Yeah.
And we got going in that September. And we were building up, and the year is going on, and again, similar sort of stuff. Again, thousands of people doing the praise. We're building up to what I know is going to work at the end. And then the department announced accredited grades. And I don't know if you even remember those.
No,
Predicted grades were the first one. Teacher just writes down the prediction. There was a system, but you just write down. Accredited grades was the best of both worlds for the students.
Oh yeah, you get to sit the exam as well.
You got to sit the exam as well.
Yeah.
So you got the predictions, you got to sit the exams, and you get the better of whichever.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't have to sit the exams. So anyway, naturally, what are a lot of students doing grinds for? Because they're struggling in the subject.
A big drop off then, I can imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they say, like, you know, maybe I was leaving Cert Irish, and they say, well, sure, I was only doing the grinds because I needed to pass. Now the teachers, you know, is going to pass me, you know what I mean? So big drop off after that. We're kind of, you know, like literally you probably lost half your customers at that point. Coming in again into the busiest part. A lot of people are just, you know, done for the year.
Yeah.
So at that moment, it's like, you know, now it's a year in. I remember I'd said it was 6 weeks, Yeah. 6 weeks and we know.
Still not sure,
We're not sure. We're not sure because it's like, it does work. But it's like...
The government keeps shooting you in the foot.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, there's new competitors coming in, you know?
Yeah.
And so there we are. And I'm kind of thinking, you know, I will say, I never for 1 minute thought that it wasn't going to actually work because I knew I could just deliver my own stuff anyway. And I knew I had... You know, I could deliver it well. But, so we're coming into April 2021 now. And, you know, again, some teachers, the nature of their subject, they might have lost 3/4 of their students.
Okay, yeah.
And like, you know, they're saying, I don't know about this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But a past pupil of mine named Jamie Wall was on the Late Late Show. And so it was like, I'd say it was like towards the end of April. And he just says, he said the starting point was, he said, I thought back to he goes, my maths teacher in school, Eoghan O'Leary. And he kind of delivers one of my catchphrases. So I would have taught Jamie in 2005, you know. So obviously I'm using this catchphrase for a long time. But what I say about problem solving, you know, I say in general is if you don't know what to do what you know. Right? Yeah. And right, sometimes people wonder about that phrase, but I say it all the time. In relation to maths, but other, you know, life as well. Yeah. You know, start with what you know. Do the first step.
Yeah.
Do that. The first step brings you to the second step.
Yeah.
And you go from there, you know.
And I suppose for me, like, I think back to when I was in secondary school doing maths, and my maths teacher, Eoghan O'Leary, says to me, he said to us all in first year maths, he said, guys, with maths, no matter how far you go or how start it is, when you're faced with a problem you don't know how to fix, do what you know first.
And so he delivered that and obviously told his story then. So I remember I was sitting at home because my wife was nursing and she was working night shift. I was sitting home all by myself on the couch, you know? I was like, I can't believe it.
Shout out on the Late Late Show.
Exactly. I cannot believe that just happened. And my phone just lit up with people texting and people ringing. My mother obviously, you know, like first like all my aunties and people ringing her, and then she ringing me. But there was a guy watching called Philip O'Callaghan from from Examcraft. So it's a big education company in Ireland. And Philip had been interested in this area of online tuition and the supports to schools and supports to students. And then Philip reached out then. We had a conversation. We kind of worked together. I wrote a brief for them, and then we kind of worked together for the period of probably 6 months. And then Philip kind of, and Examcraft and the tuition centre kind of merged in together. Do you know what I mean? So that made a massive difference. So we actually then, right? So then we actually did finally get to test what I felt would be true. So I definitely got the Leaving Cert wrong, that I never thought they'd cancel that. But what I felt was, and I felt really sure of this, that online grinds would work for students coming up to the Leaving Cert.
Yeah.
In a way that they wouldn't work at other times and couldn't work in person. So like we're here in the Allen Institute down in Bandon, you know, I have students here later on today coming down for their weekly grinds, and they might prefer to come face to face than online.
Yeah.
But on the run up to the Leaving Cert, they all want to be online because they don't want to give up that half an hour each way commuting in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in 2021, we ran the 21-day maths challenge.
Okay.
And it didn't get its chance the year before.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But
it
got its chance
drop
then,
off, yeah.
because the predicted grades meant it was gone. But even with accredited grades, it took off.
Oh, really? Okay.
And it had the reaction of like, if you heard it, you said, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
And you told your friend.
Yeah.
And they said, that's a really good idea. And they told their friend.
Yeah.
And even for the teachers and parents, they told their friends and their students and everyone. And so it took off. And basically, from that moment then,
the infamous course was born. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I suppose, you know, we progressed from there.
Yeah.
So.
But look, we'll leave it there for today.
Yeah.
And any kind of anything we discussed today on the website or any links we'll put in the caption below. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, head over to our YouTube channel and we'll post a video version of this podcast so that you can access these links and get to watch Eoghan in person. Thanks very much for joining, and we'll catch you again next time.
David, thanks very much.